I'm Sam Laprade, and we are back at it on An Hour to Give. It's so great to have you here. Of course, today is all about AFP Ottawa, the Association of Fundraising Professionals Ottawa. Check them out. Even if you're interested, even think you're interested in becoming a fundraising professional, it is a great place to start. I wanted to welcome a couple of fantastic new guests to our show. Micheline Shoebridge is here. Hello, Micheline. How are you?
I'm just fine. Thanks for having us.
And whenever I think about Micheline, I think about the arts, and that's because you are with MASC. Tell us what MASC does.
Well, MASC stands for Multicultural Arts for Schools and Communities. So our mission is to offer transformative artistic experiences in schools and communities. So we really want to empower young people to be able to find a voice, build their confidence, create an authentic self. We want to celebrate Canada's diversity as well. We have just such an amazing diversity that exists in Canada, and here in the region we're very blessed. And then lastly, to really spark wonder and ignite creativity. So we really want to have the participants come away with just a different perspective after participating in a workshop or a performance or one of our festivals.
Well, I think anybody that would spend time with JustJamaal would be inspired. JustJamaal is here with us. How are you?
Today's good. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Tell me what you do.
So I'm a poet, writer, presenter, performing artist, and mentor, arts mentor. And I'm one of the MASC roster artists as well. So I've been a MASC roster artist for, I think, 13 years now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Since 2012?
2012, yeah. So yeah, that's it's been a good journey so far. And as a MASC artist, I go into schools and communities, and I either perform a presentation, sometimes it's 30 minutes or an hour of my artistic creations, or I'll lead a workshop where I'm introducing students to, or community members to, artistic practices such as poetry writing or songwriting or the art of performing and speaking on stage.
Okay, I want to do that. That looks like so much fun. How did you get involved, Micheline?
Well, that's a really good question. I was actually working, I used to have a career in film, and I was producing, I was on a documentary, and it was very intense. It was set in Tajikistan, and it was very challenging, both financially and politically and socially and logistically. And I was at the same time volunteering at a community arts project in Lowertown. And I remember coming home and my daughter saying, "Oh, Mom, when you come home from that awesome arts program, you're so sparkly-eyed and so happy." I was like, "Oh, that's great. What about when I'm working on the documentary?" She's like, "Oh, Mommy, sometimes you're kind of scary." And I was like, "Okay." And that night I opened up my laptop. I said, "What am I doing?" That's community engaged arts. And MASC popped up, and I knew somebody on the board, and the rest is history. 17 years later, and I'm still here.
And how old was your daughter when that happened?
She was about 8.
Yeah, out of the mouth of babes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have my own version of a story like that, and I think it's sometimes those kids know us better than we know ourselves.
That's important.
We listened, yes, both of us did, which is fantastic. And tell me where your creativity comes from. Were your parents creative? Did you come from a creative family?
So I came from a home where there was literature all around. My father would make us read, particularly because he couldn't afford to get us much for our birthdays, but going around the garage sales, books were always cheap at garage sales when we came to Canada. So whenever we'd want a book, he'd just buy it for us, and we'd have these books around. But we had books about our ancestors or people from our community. So I remember reading books from George Washington Carver, books about Frederick Douglass. And when reading these books, I was inspired not only by how these people were able to speak about their lives, just as these were like biographies I was reading, but I was inspired by the literature in it. And there were stories being told about real life people that I admired. So growing up and my father introducing me to that, but also introducing me to read the dictionary, he told me that this book, the dictionary, has the most wealth that I can ever give you. So he made me and my siblings read the dictionary 5 times a day. It's not 5 times a day, 5 times a week, and we had to memorize words. So my love for literature and books and words, it grew from there. It was a space where I felt like I could discover who I am, because now I could see people that I want to be like, and I could just follow the path through how these stories were being told.
That is probably the best answer I have ever received to the question of, were you inspired by your family? That is incredible. That's incredible. And you're right about the dictionary. That's fantastic.
Yes.
When you hear stories like this, and then you have JustJamaal going in and inspiring young people, do you see that spark in them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I have seen Jamaal and other artists create literal magic, and it's just that spark that happens. I see myself in this person. I want to do what they're doing. I am also an artist. I've just had this awakened in me or validated in me, or I now have the confidence because I just see a different path. Or I've heard a story. You know, we have different artists who deliver sort of historical or cultural perspectives through plays, through dance, through song, and those also validate and show them that there is this rich diversity, and they either see themselves or they just see that bigger picture, and it really it can change who they are. And we have, you know, those sparks that are lit. We were just talking about this young woman, Maram, who did a poetry workshop with Jamaal, turned it into a cinepoem, kind of like a music video, but for poetry. They're very cool. Check them out.
Cool.
And she was 8 years old, I think, at the time. And I saw her a little bit over the years, but then kind of lost touch. And then I heard that she had gone to university in film. And I just met up with her, and she said, oh yeah, I did that because I did this project. And I realized that I had stuff to say and that I could do it because you provided this opportunity. And so anyway, she's now finished school and has a fellowship, and she's got some funding and bringing it back to her community. Anyway, just a beautiful full circle story. So sometimes it can create artists, but sometimes it's just a path that is just opened up, and that spark is whatever it awakens in them, it gives them that confidence that you can do something. Yeah.
Beautifully said. You know, it's interesting. I've done over 14,000 interviews in my career. And I always am interested when somebody is writing poetry or performing or singing, that moment they decide to take that and then call themselves a poet, a performer, an artist. Do you remember the moment that it became what you did to who you were?
Yes. It was when I had to write a Father's Day card in grade 7. I remember that there was a lot going on in my home at that time. And already by grade 7, I had been known to write poetry. Like my friends knew this about me, teachers knew this about me. And so I was going to tackle writing this Father's Day card, just quite regular. It's Father's Day, give a rhyme, you know, a few rhymes, and that's it. But I wanted to write something that felt like, well, if my father, I want to write something that my father's going to remember now. And I remember taking my time and using kind of like a lyrical way of writing this Father's Day card. It was kind of the last time I wrote a Father's Day card, because I know that after that my father knew my understanding of poetry. But it was that moment when I completed it and I was ready to take it home. I said, I think I'm a poet. And that was the first time that thought came into me. I think I'm a poet. But I never let it go after that, because after I said that, I just started to express that more about myself. So it was kind of like I needed a self-acknowledgement, and it was through a teacher asking me to do something. It's kind of, you know, menial, just write this Father's Day card. So it was grade 7. I was 12, 13 years old, yeah.
And my point about asking that question is, I think a lot of people find their identity through the arts, and they can call themselves something. They can call themselves a poet, an artist, a musician, etc.
For sure. I mean, I have 2 daughters. One's a musician and the other is visual artist. She's now a costume designer. And the costume designer, Lara, I was talking to her about the struggle in the schools and that there's not the funding for the arts. That the arts teachers are no longer, they're generalist teachers, and that's how our work is actually growing significantly, because they need the artists to come in to deliver the dance, to deliver the visual arts, to deliver the music. And she just welled up in tears, and she just said, Mom, could you imagine me in high school without my art class?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she got all emotional because she said, I don't know if I would have made it through. And who would I be today? Would I have the career? And so it's not always about creating artists. That does happen, but when it does, and it is part of their identity, we have, you know, the MASC Young Authors and Illustrators Festival, where we have kids who are they're just writers, they're just book nerds, and they just love all of that. And they meet other kids who are also they're that passionate about that same thing, and they find their people, right? And it's like, I'm not alone, and I'm validated. And my teacher, they read my thing, and they said, that artist said that I'm a writer, you know, and so that can be that moment.
And we've come to a moment. So we would like you to share one of your poems. We have a short window. We only have about 2 minutes.
Okay.
And then I have to wrap up the show still. So I'm gonna turn it over to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
This piece I'll recite. I wrote it because I found that when I walk into a classroom and there are students who look like me, I could see it in their eyes already that they want something from me. And what I want to give them is hope. So I wrote this piece, and it goes like this. Show me the African. Show me the African who stands upon his highest word, who thinks thrice before he speaks, who remembers that every moment is a parable capable of metamorphosis. Where is this character? The one who averts dangers by living within his means. The African, effective with his actions and his speech, guarding his states like a minister but doesn't preach. The African, aware of responsibility and speaks to future generations about therapy and the medicine of accountability, that every message is a lesson than a blessing. So ask questions but keep investing, that's the best thing. The African, with wisdom as his twin flame, change is his way from the pace of past days. The African, no longer afraid to make mistakes because he's built a beautiful heart where he can take breaks, afford more time to explore, walk through door after door after door. Show me the African whose endurance ensures he's left no stone unturned, fulfilled his earthly bonds, bound to a truthful word, whose touch is secure, inner force is a sword. Show me the African that emphasizes emancipation through manifestation, who upgrades his navigation and seeks to see his people free by good decision-making. Show me the African with these noble ancestral qualities, and I'll show you. The African is me.
Wow.
So that piece is to give Afro-Caribbean students, when I walk into classrooms and schools, the hope that they can reach for more for themselves despite their circumstances, because I felt at one point in my life growing up, I needed to see something of a template or a blueprint that can show me more.
Beautifully said. A perfect way to end our time. Thank you so much, Micheline and Jamaal, for joining me today. And thank you for spending time with us here on An Hour to Give. I hope you've been inspired.